Guys, in this video we will learn how to add API authentication using Laravel Passport. So let's get started, and you can see that I already downloaded fresh Laravel application and also configured the database. You can see over here. And now let me go here into the Laravel Passport documentation. So first of all, what we need to do, so you need to install the Laravel Passport. So simply I will copy this command, and let me go here and simply run the passport command. Okay, and you can see that it will download passport. Okay, and it will take some time to download it. Okay, so I will say UI, do you want to run? Yes, I will say yes, I need. So simply say yes, and it will generate the UUIDs for all the clients IDs, and it will take some times. Okay, now you can see that it's published, and you can see here is the warning like please add the hash password to the trait to the user model. So simply we need to copy this, and we need to simply go over application and model and user. Simply I will go and simply paste it over here. So I will say use and save it, and has API token, so I will simply use and save it. Okay, simply save it. And now if I go to the routes, you can see that here is the simple api.php file and added auth colon API. Okay, now let me go to the documentation and go down. Okay, first of all we did these things. Okay, and the next thing we need to go to the configuration file and add to the API guard. So let me go here into the configuration and auth file. Okay, and then you can see here is the guard. So simply we need to define driver as a passport, and provider will be the users table. Simply save it. Now we will create register and login API. So let me go here and create the controller for it first. So I will say php artisan mac, and I will say controller, and I will say API auth controller. Hit enter. You can see that that's created a API folder inside that auth controller. So if I go here, API controller and auth controller, you can see that here. Now let me go and create register route over here. So I will say post method, and I will say register, and then I will simply add auth controller over here, and I will say colon class, and I will define the register method. Simply save it, and let me use the controller over here, and I will say API slash auth controller. Simply save it. Okay, and now if I go here, let me create one method over here call register. Okay, and first of all what we will do simply validation. So I will say validator, and I will say validator and colon mac, and I will say request all the input, and then I will define the simple validation. So I will require the name field first. So I will say required, and then I will say email, and we also require the email for now, and also add the email validation. So I will say email, and then I will say password, and password basically right now just say required, and I will say confirm confirm underscore password. So I will say confirm underscore password, and I will simply say required, and also should be the same as what we have in password field. Simply save it. Okay, and let me use the validator over here. So I will say validator, save it. Okay, and if anything goes wrong, then I will say validator fails, and I will simply say return response will be in JSON. So I will say JSON response, and then I will say simply status. We define some proper format for it. If there is 0, then something wrong. If 1, that's going fine. And I will say message, and message says like validation error, and then data says error, and I will pass all the errors. So I will say validator and errors, and I will say all the errors. Okay, so simple semicolon. Okay, and goes down. If everything going well, then I will simply write now return, like return response, and I will say JSON response. Inside the JSON I will simply write now status, one. Okay, simply save it and run the application. So I will say php artisan sir. Okay, and now let me go to the postman api and simply create. Okay, and now if I go here in our root route, okay, the url, so you can see localhost 8000. Simply copy it and I will say api slash register, and I will say simply post method, and if I hit send, okay, you can see that there is a validation error because we haven't passed name, email, password and confirm password. So now what I will do, I will simply pass John and I will say email, there will be a John at the rate gmail.com, and then I will pass password. So I will say 123 456 for now, and then confirm underscore password. I will pass same password, and if I hit send, you can see that status one, that means everything fine with the validation. Now let me go and create user for it. So I will say create user over here. So I will say user colon colon create, and then I will create the user. First find the name key and I will take from the request object. So I will say name, then I will say email, and email also get from the request object, and I will say password and bcrypt, and I will get from the request object. So I will say password. Okay, simply save it. Once user will be created, we will generate a token. So I will say user and user create token. So we just need to give the name, so like my app, and I will get access token from the object. Simply save it. Okay, and here I will be define like response, what response we will send. So simply say response array, and I will simply add token on it. So simply say token, and then I will say user, and I will simply name. Okay, and then I will say simply email, and here will be the email. Okay, now what I will do, simply pass the message proper, what format we following. So I will say simply user registered. Okay, and then I will say data will be the simple response what we created. So response, save it. Okay, and now let me go here and run our api again because we already found one. So simply I click on save. Now I got error user not found, so I will simply go here and use the user. So I will say user, simply save it. Okay, and now if I go and click send, and you can see that I got the response, and you can see that user registered and with the bearer token. You can see that here username is John and email. Now what I will do, I will simply go here and create another API called login API. So simply I will say login API, save it. Okay, same thing, I will create login function over here. So I will say login, and here I will be use auth, and I will first of all I will use the if condition auth colon colon attempt. Okay, and inside the attempt I will pass the array with the email, and I will get email from the request object. So I will say request email, and I will get password, and I will get the password from the request object as well. So I will say password, and if everything going fine, then I will get the user. So I will say auth colon colon user. Okay, and I will same thing I will do like create access token and return. So I will simply copy this response and simply paste it over here. You can see that, and if anything goes wrong, then I will say return response, and I will say JSON, and I will simply say status equal to 0. That means something wrong, and message will be simply like user authentication. Okay, simply save it. Okay, and I will say data equal to null because we don't have any other data. Simply save it null, and at the end the semicolon. Now if I go and simply copy this, and I will call the login url. So I will say login api. Okay, and post request, and I will simply pass okay, like email, and I will say john at the gmail.com, and then I will say password. I will simply 1212 wrong password. So if I click on send, now what I got, yeah, auth not found, I forgot again, so I need to use auth. Simply save it, okay, over here, save it, and now let me send it again. Yeah, you can see that there is zero message unauthenticated user. So let me pass the right password, and if I click on send, you can see that but user registered. So I think we need to change the message. So I will say simple, if I go here, user logged in, okay, simply save it, okay, and hit enter again. So you can see that user logged in and it returns the tokens. So now what I will do, I will simply create the CRUD API for the post. So it's only access the CRUD API if you pass the proper token and if you are authorized user. So let me create quickly migration for it. So I will say php artisan mac, and I will say migration, and I will say create post table, okay. And now if I go here into the database, and if I go here, I will say simply string data type, and I will pass the title, and then I will say text data type, and there will be a body column, okay. Simply save it, okay, and I will run the migration. So I will say php artisan migrate, okay. Now it's created one table. So let me go here and quickly show you that one as well. If I refresh, you can see that post, you can see title and body, okay. Now if I go here and create model for it, so I will say php mac model, and I will say post, okay. Yeah, so model, and yeah, now it's created a model. So now let me go, and you can see that here, let me define the column as well. So I will say post, sorry, fillable, and I will define the column name over here. I will say title, and I will say body. Simply save it, okay. Now I will create the controller for it. So I will say php artisan mac controller, and I will say api slash post controller, okay. And if I hit enter, you can see that it's created a controller over here. Now if I go here into the api, I will create resource route for it. So I will say api resource, okay, and I will simply define post, and I will say post controller column class. Simply save it, okay. And now let me go here and simply use that post controller over here. I will simply go php artisan mac, sorry, route and list. If I hit enter, now you can see that that's already created, like post, like get the post, create the post, and you can see that like show the post, and you can see that there is a update methods and delete methods. So all routes it's created using the api resource, okay. So now what we will do, simply create all the functions into the controller, and it only access if user is authenticated. So let me go here, and first of all let me go and create index method over here, and I will say post, and I will simply get from the paginet. So I will say paginet, and I will say 5 pagination, and then simply return response, and there will be a json response, and we already predefined the format for it. So I will say status will be the one, and the message will be, I will say post fetched, okay. Whatever you want to add, data will be passed as a post, okay. Simply save it, okay, run. And now let me use the post model over here. Simply save it, okay. And now let me go and call that api over here. Simply go, and I will simply remove everything, and I will say post, okay, and get. And if I click on send, yeah, we need to run again the project. So let me make it bigger, this one, and I will say php artisan sir, okay. Now it's running. So let me go here and click on send. You can see that I got post fetch one, but you can see that I haven't passed anything like authentication token or anything. So we need to add authentication middleware on it. So I will go and simply I will say route colon middleware, and I will simply pass the middleware we already have given over here. So I will simply auth API, and then I will say group. Inside the group, all the route will be used authentication middleware. Without authentication, you cannot access the this all the routes. So simply save it. Okay, and now let me go and run again. You can see that I got something like unexpected, and so let me make it semicolon, save it. Yeah, you can see that login route. So that means it's by default returning on login page. So what we need to do, simple, first go here and I will say accept, and I will say application JSON. So I will only accept the JSON. So if I click on it, you can see that unauthenticated. So that means you need to pass the token or bearer token. So I will say an authorization. So authorization. Okay. Then I will pass the bearer token. So I will say bearer space, and I will simply copy this token and I will pass over there. Okay, simply save it because we already used the login URL, sorry, login route. So simply click on send. Now you can see that fetch. If I remove this one and if I hit, you can see that unauthenticated. If I make it enable, then if I send, you can see that I got the proper response. Okay, right now I don't found any data on it, but we can, we already created a post route. So post API, you can see that here is the post API to create. So I will create store method for it. So let me go and go to the post and let me create store. We will add the validation. So we already have implemented validation over here. So I will simply quickly copy that one. So simply copy it and paste it over here, and I will say simply title and body field and only required for now. So simply remove this one both. Okay, and I will use the validation validator over here. So I will simply say validator. If everything going well, then I will say post, and I will say post create, and I will simply add title, and I will say request, and I will say title, and then I will say body, and I will say request body. Okay, and simply save it and simply return response, and I will say JSON, and I will say status and one, and then I will say message will be simply like post created. Okay, simply go here and I will pass the data. So what we created, so I will simply use the post. Okay, and simply add the semicolon over there, simply save it. Okay, and now let me call this API. So I will simply copy this one. Okay, and go over here and I will say post. Okay, and I will simply hit send. Yeah, I got again the same error. So what I need to do, I need to pass authorization. So I will say authorization, and I will pass bearer token. So I will say bearer token. So I will simply copy it again from here and paste it over here. Simply copy it. Okay, and simply add the bearer token. Okay, and simply hit the send. You can see that I got the validation error, title field and body field is required. So what I will do, I will simply pass the title like first post, and then body, I will say first body. Okay, and if I click on send, you can see that post is created, and with the creation object you can see that. Now what I will do, simply go here and you can see that there is a show method. So we need to just pass the ID and that return the post detail. So let me go here and simple create another function over here, and that's called show, and I will pass the ID $ID, and simply I will say post find, and I will simply pass the ID, and simply I will copy the response so I don't have to write it again. So I will say post return, simply save it. Okay, and now let me go here and run that route, run that API over here. So if I go here and I will say post slash one. Okay, so that means it's only one should be run. Okay, and now let me go and pass the authorization as well. So I will simply authorization, and I will pass the bearer token over here, because without authentication it's not going to access. Okay, you cannot access it. So I will simply copy it and go it and simply paste it over here and simply click on send. You can see that I found the details of the post. Okay, now let me go here and you can see that there is a put route, so you can update the post as well. So let me go here and create the update method. So I will simply call update, and it will also pass the ID on it. So I will say simply ID. I need validation, so I will simply copy from the store method and paste it over here. If everything fine, then I will say post, and then I will say find ID, and then I will say post title equal to request title. Okay, and same thing for the body. So I will say body, and I will say body, and then simply I will use the save method of the model. So I will use save, and then simply I will return same response. Okay, I will simply copy the structure, and here I will say updated. Okay, simply save it. Okay, and now let me go here and run that route. So same, I will simply call put route. Okay, and I will pass the parameters over here. So you can see title, and I will say updated title, and body I will say updated body. Okay, and then if I click on send, you can see that post updated and updated body. So you can see that how easily we created the updated API. And now if I go at the end, there is a delete API, so there is a destroy method we need to create. So if I go to the controller, I will create another method that's called destroy, and I will also pass the ID on it. So I will say ID, same thing, I will get the post colon colon find, and I will say ID, and I will say post delete, and then I will simply return response like this way. So I will say post deleted, and here will be the null. Okay, simply save it. Okay, now let me go here, and same thing, I will simply call delete method, and I will remove every rest of everything, just past one. So that means one record should be deleted. If I click on send, you can see that null post deleted. So that means you can see that how we created easily like insert update delete, like a CRUD operation with the API. So I hope guys you understand how it works with the post passport. So if you like my video, then subscribe me. Thank you so much for watching guys.